Welcome, welcome, welcome to Here With Us podcast. My name is Ufuoma Oyibo. I'm one of your hosts.
And I'm Ebony Obanero, and I'm one of your hosts. And we have Dayo Okunlola with us. Dayo, introduce yourself to our listeners, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ifoma and Ebony. Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody. I'd like to start with the most important part of my life. I am Dayo Okunlola, as they said, married with to the love of my life and got two beautiful daughters. I am a leadership expert and a certified speaker and coach with the John Maxwell team. Founder of Mindshift Initiative and outfit get to empower human life by a shift from the norm and status quo in their mind. I believe if you can fix your mind, you can change your life. I am also um, the convener of Emerge, which is a conference with the objective of helping people rise from the dust, right? Professionally, I lead the global research and development at Kimberly Clark Corporation, which, of course, Fortune 500 company with experience in front-end innovation, product development, and commercialization. Worked in a lot of innovation and renovation project for the company, but as I said in my personal space, I just like to support people, help people just be the best version of themselves, and starting from their mind. Because I believe that if your mind is right, your life can be right. It's a lot of other things that go into that, but that's fundamentally the truth. I'm an author, wrote my first book and only so far, hoping to write more as time permits. Change for change, and hopefully, I would get to talk about some of the things and insights in that book today. So, again, thank you for having me, both of you.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. We're definitely in for a treat. All the different credentials and experiences that you bring to this room. I'm excited. I'm sure our listeners will also be excited to what we have to embark on. So, can you start off by telling us about what Mindshift Initiative is all about, the inspiration behind it, like even the term Mindshift. What does it mean to you and your team?
Thank you for that question. So, just like it's a compound word. I've seen a lot of people try to write those words separately, but really, it's a compound word. But for me to be able to do justice to what it means to me first, right? Because um, before anybody can journey with you on a vision, you have to make sure that you internalize it yourself and it resonates with you a lot. So this is something that started from me, right? It's my life, my story. And so what that actually means is if you break that compound word, as I said, into two, you have mind and then you're going to have a shift, right? um, Everything that we are, that we're ever going to be, starts somewhere, which is the mind. If you take a step back and think about all the things that you've done today, as an example, you would realize that whether you know it or not, it was first in your mind before you actually put it to action, right? So whether it's subconscious mind or your conscious mind. So now, what that means that you can frame your world, you can frame your life from your mind. Okay, our words, our lives are framed in our minds. The battle you can fight and win in your mind is more than half won, even in reality, right? So the problem is the results that people get in real life, they don't align with their expectation. It aligns with what's going on in their mind. Okay, so it's just, so you can see somebody talk to you about, oh, I want to be this person. I want to do this. I want to do these great things. It's all dreams and aspirations, right? But what's going on in their mind is not foundation for that very thing they want to be, right? So now, if the mind is wrong, if the mindset is wrong, then definitely what plays out of it will definitely be wrong. I mean, it's just like a computer. Whatever you put into it is what is going to give back to you, right? So the team comes in, where my team comes in is to help you sit down with folks and really try to dissect some of the things, and a lot of some of those things are not things that we can control. The influences from the environment. There's a lot of things. Hopefully, I'm still going to get to that. But the summary is a shift from that state of mind that's creating a result that you don't want is possible, right? You can ultimately shift from what I call wrong mindset into a right mindset, right? So we come in and as a team, and personally, I can share a bunch of personal experiences where somebody can come to you and say that this is just the result I have for my life, and you start to talk to them, and you're going to see why that result is the case, right? So we help people to be better versions of themselves, as I said, and ultimately we're always looking for ways to impact our world, impact this generation, and things like that. And part of the things that we also do is that we help people who are actually struggling with all forms of addiction to get off it and get integrated back into the society, free of substance, and just live the best life designed for them by our Maker, for them.
Yeah. So how does the idea of mind shift, the one that you just gave us, how does that connect with mental health and emotional well-being? Do you have any examples maybe that you serve people who are young and who needed a mind shift to better their mental health or their emotional well-being?
Yes, that's a ton of examples I can give to you, but I like to start with there's a young lady who was 24 at that time that approached the organization, and she said, I am so anxious about life, and I've dealt with anxiety. I just, every time I'm anywhere, I just feel like I want to do something in my mind, and then I'm just too overly anxious about things and life, what's going to happen next. And in doing that, I get so stressed out, and I just can't figure things out. And then it begins to trickle down to the fact that I find it hard to focus on anything, right? So the first thing that we had to do, want to understand personality. We want to know who this person is. And so we spent extensive time taking them on a journey of we discovering them. As I've done this over the years, I realized that while we go on that journey with people for us to learn about them, they find out another version of themselves. But that's another story. So, we go on a self discovery, discovering them and trying to understand them. We go on that journey. And as we go on that journey, we begin to see events in their lives that have culminated over time and have kind of built a house in their mind where those events are housed, and those events, once they see triggers of things that perhaps occur in the past, or where the bedrock of those events, it kind of triggers them, and then they get into that zone of that maybe stress or anxiety or anything. So for this lady, we started to dig even deeper, and we saw that some of the things that she likes to do a lot is she loves to multitask, which is not bad for anybody. I mean, I do a lot of that all the time. But while she does that, she likes to create results. I didn't say think about. She likes to create results of something that has not happened yet. So, In other
Mm.
words, she would try to, for example, okay, I want to go on vacation, right? I want to, maybe travel out of the country. So this lady would create something to simulate that journey, not just in her mind, but physically, right? And so every day she sees it, and then she looks forward to it. Of course, the reason why we set some of these events in our lives is so that we have something to look forward to. But we saw that for her, it was just out of the norm, right? It was too much, and we got to a point where she invited us over together with my friend then, to where she was leaving. Every picture on our wall was a creation of something she wanted to do. And we saw a bunch of pictures of things that she has written down that she has not even done, right? She goes as far as having somebody who can paint the picture of that expectation. Now, in itself, I don't think that's wrong, but when you overdo it, then it's going to start to form in your mind things that you possibly would dream about. And when it becomes something so frequent, with your mind, the way our minds are wired is anything that you constantly think about, anything that you constantly just give a picture of in your mind becomes your reality, right? So eh, she told stories of her, going to bed at night and then dreaming about those things, right? So she started to stress herself up, right? There's so many stressors in the society already. Things we see, things we hear, but she went the extra mile to create the stressors for herself. Okay, so this may not be the story for everybody, right? But when we saw something like this, I think it was important that we saw that the next thing that we need to do was to debug our mind. Okay, she needed a total cleansing of the mind. The mind was so occupied unnecessarily with things that may be productive to her, but ultimately was hurting her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was taking a toll on her health, and things were starting to suffer from it. Family members, that she gets so hung up on things that she would fight people in the house if you touch the frame or the picture or the painting showing something that's not even happened but will happen in the future. She gets so mad and so furious, and she can break glass for it. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
we're starting to zoom in into that very unstable mental state. So we saw that it was important for her to debug her mind. So
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. And
So
is that the beginning? Is that the beginning of kind of the connection between your the mind shift initiative and having true mental health, like being very mentally healthy, if that's the right word to use? Like, is that the connect for her story? You had to go in, assess the situation. You saw, okay, she's well occupied. And so from there, you had to kind of pull the layers back. And that was to kind of remove some of the crowdedness, it sounded like, in her own mind. And so it sounds like is mind shift, it could be different for different people, right? People deal with different, they need a different type of shift. Is that accurate?
that's very accurate. That's why I said
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be the different situations. And so there is really no one hat fitted all for anybody, right? So we look at what is this person dealing with, right? Everybody has a demon they're fighting, right? So what exactly is this person's case or story? And we just tailor um, what we always call a journey. Medical practitioners will call it treatment plan, but it's a journey. Anything that you, however, wherever you find yourself, it's a journey. You found yourself there. You didn't just jump there, right? So you traveled there somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we're gonna help you travel away from that place, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're spot on. It's not. You may have similar cases, but ultimately it's so different
Mm.
per person, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had a follow-up with that. So I'm intrigued by the concept you're sharing with the journey, shifting from the wrong mindset to the right mindset. Of course, all the mental health stuff is kicking in. But how the word that you used was debug our mind through cleansing. How is that done? Like what intervention or what methods with a mind shift? Like how do we navigate through that for those that are interested by
Well,
that journey of, debugging it?
thank you. That's a good question. I was starting to get on that journey too. So I think the first thing that we want to get that person on, and still using that same person's example, is we started to create a new environment with this person. Okay. Keep in mind that I said she walked up to us. So she got tired. She got to a point of, I'm at my limit. I cannot deal with this again. I think I remember the dad saying at that time that after she breaks gas or she fights a younger one, she will just be very remorsed and say that you guys need to help me. I need help. I don't know what I did, how I did that. So not everybody will have to get to that point before they realize they need help. But she got to that point. Okay. So it was easy because she got to that point. It was easy for us to just say that you need a new environment. Not we're not taking you off your house, but a new environment needs to be created where you sleep the same place. Because ultimately we've done plans where we take people from where they live, and we've learned from that experience that it's always not the best case, because the moment they walk back into that place, they get back into that zone, or they have a PTSD of is this going to come back, or things like that. So we said you need a new environment, but you need a new environment the same place you lay your head, right? But how are you going to create this new environment? Take all these pictures down. We're not destroying them. We're just going to take them down first. Okay. Let the wall be bare. So everything on that wall that represents, um, you know, those events that brought back memories, that trigger hard, that people touch, and all that, we took them down. Right. Now, when we took them down, was that once and done? No, we came back like a week after. Those pictures were back on the wall, right? So, we had a conversation again. We took them down again. Um, and I think we had that instance like 3 or 4 times. We will take them down, she puts them back on the wall. We'll take them down, she puts them back on the wall. So, but the last time she did not put them back on the wall. And I was just curious personally myself. And then I asked a question. Well, those pictures have always been down every time we come back. And then she said that this time I just wanted to be free. And that actually caught my interest. It's like, what do you mean you want to be free? It's like, yeah, because every time you guys take them down and I put them back up, that very night, it just feels like I'm being zoomed back into where the place I don't want to be again. And then when you come back, I remember the second time you came back and you took them down, I slept well that night. Okay. And then I did it again, but I didn't, that sleeping well that second night did not register into my conscious mind because it was just one time. But then the third time when you guys came and took them down, I remember sleeping well. So I have two data points in my memory telling me that I can sleep well at night if these pictures are not there. So when you came back the first time and you put them down, I wanted to try it.
Yeah.
And it's been days and I've been sleeping well.
Mm.
So when she said that, notice that we really didn't do much.
Right.
We found a healing ourselves. We just were there to guide, to lead,
Mhm.
to direct, right? What we did was very, very strategic. It was very, led to that healing but ultimately she still had that choice to want to be healed because of what she saw on that journey. So after we did that, we then started to dig into some of this event into her life, how she got there, how she started cooking them up, and then we saw that she loves to travel, she loves to go places, she loves to do things, right? And so, the second phase of that, after at least I'm sleeping well type thing, but she's still thinking about those trips. She still want to be there, but at least she's sleeping well. And those anger issues were starting to reduce, right? Not going away completely, but it was starting to reduce, right? At least she was able to. She was the one that finally said that I want to be healed, and she
Yeah.
agrees for once to not put those pictures back on the wall, right?
Mhm.
So when that happened, it was more like a light bulb went off, and she was like, "Yeah, this is probably my healing." But we let her understand that this is while this is foundational, there might still be some things really rooted that we need to get into. But
Right.
yes, we found some more things in the roots. But that's to answer that debugging. So the debugging process varies again, right? Per situation, but they're all tailored to refine the mind, to essentially think about it as you're cleaning out your cluttered closet, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, which makes sense. Like we've talked about in previous episodes, having SMART goals that are realistic to each individual. So it sounds like, you allowed this lady to be in a space where she was in control of how she wanted to come to that realization of like, okay, I now know that this yields to this if I continue this, on her own terms, as opposed to being forced to, get to that state based on what you think. So, but even in that though, like what are some other common challenges you see with young people? What are they facing today, from your perspective?
I think one thing I'm starting to see now, um, got a lot of data points, is trust. Okay. Young people are no longer trusting, um, not just themselves, they're not trusting their parents. And when we say young people, right, that's very relative, right? But
Mm.
but the trust is getting very universal, right? And I think one of the things that, um, historically I've also seen from data is the moment you lose the trust, um, it's hard to get back, and they are finding it hard to even trust anybody. Okay, so that's one. Um, the other thing is, which I'm really really still doing a lot of, um, researching into why that is. Um, People are, especially younger folks, they're dealing with burnout. Okay, um, corporate America and the society that we live in, and the supply or non-supply of the right information in media, right? Um, right or wrong information is causing people to be burnt out. Okay, too much of wrong information historically just drains your energy, and you're just drained. You see people, you know, um, struggling with all kinds of addiction, and it's just very draining. There's some things that are spiritual, because I'm a man of faith, and I understand the place of faith in mental health. Okay, some things are helpful, to your mental status. If you're a Christian, I've also seen people who overdo things, and it's still detrimental to their mental health as Christians. But that's, um, sort of side story for another day. But ultimately, I think balance is important. Moderacy is important. Whatever information you're putting into your mind, filter it. Have a filter. Okay. Um, Somebody was telling me just, it was a haha moment when one of my coworkers was um we're talking about when they grew up. And I think when we grew up too, when we were growing up, right? Um, Parents will filter what you watch, um, maybe because there were no um, in his time cell phones, iPads, right? But these days, even though there's all security in place on iPads and iPhones, it's these kids and young folks, younger folks, right? They find a way to break through those things, and even if they don't, there's other ways they can have access to this information. So there's essentially no filter, right? So if you're saying that your growing up was you were more disciplined, and it was because there was less of distraction then. Honestly, there's more distractions in this age and time, right?
Yeah.
So for that's for kids, right? But for young adults, and there's really so many things stressing people out, right? And it depends on the person, right? Somebody was trying to look for somebody to get married to, right? um Whether they talk about it or not, it weighs them down. We live in a society where people and I don't blame people. It's hard for people to be vulnerable, right? About what the what is the most pressing need for them at the time, right? And so when you get yourself zoomed to that zone where you're you're not there's even no single person you can talk to about the fact that, hey, I need a wife, but I'm not getting one, right? For a man, for you to say that out takes a lot of courage, right? But you can't even tell that to somebody. Some telling a group of friends recently that if you don't have money, if you're sick, if something is overwhelming to you, please say it out. Don't always see yourself as a savior of a community or a savior of your family. Yes, you are, but sometimes that wife needs to hear from you, and they need to know what you're feeling
Yeah.
for them to be able to address what's going on the inside of you. But if you just bottle everything up and you just die in silence, when you die, you're not, that's a selfish death. You were selfish because you did not think about her. You did not think about your kids. That there's going to be a time that if you keep going this route, you're going to leave this world and you're going to leave them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And all that saving goes away. Dog, who's going to save them now, right? So let be there when you have people who can help you through life. That's why they're there.
Yeah.
Rest on them. Don't take life. Don't go through life as if you were meant to be alone. If you were meant to be alone, you should not have gotten married, right? And whether it's a lady too, you're trying to find a husband, and you're trying to fake it like you're not bothered about it. I'm speaking to some young folks at my former church before I came to Atlanta. Really beautiful, young ladies with great careers, doctors, dentists, pharmacists, and they own their businesses, but they're just still searching. And one thing I saw when I first got to that church was there were young men with great careers in that church too. But guess what? They were going to another church, another place to bring their wives into that church. Now, so it was not one person, not two, not three, not four. So I have the data point that I got from my sampling then was a lot. It was more than 50% at the time. It's like something fundamentally is wrong. So we started to talk about fundamental issues. And come to find out that not all of them, most of them, they come across. And see that's why you got to be careful at every certain time in your life. They come across as though they're self-sufficient. They come across as though they're not ready. They come up, but in deep down in them, they're ready. So those things create mental
Some of the
issues.
ladies.
Yes.
So
You
they,
know,
they're projecting one thing, but in reality, it was something else.
exactly. And I started to talk to them, and come to find out most of these ladies even cry to bed at night for lack of husband, right? for lack of
Mm.
somebody to talk to. But then you come to church on Sunday trying to look away from somebody trying to smile at you and trying to talk to you, and they even talk to you. You have this how of this world type of list that every man has to meet
Oof.
to be
Yeah.
20
So
feet tall. It needs to be
This is a whole new podcast.
I
it,
know, right?
it,
So,
it
s what do you think? Just want to jump in there. What do you think, especially with that example, what role does self-awareness play, and emotional regulation, to help them with their lasting mind shift? I mean, if those, like you said, those women at your previous church who had everything right on paper, but they may not have been self-aware of what they were projecting. Like, what role does that play in a lasting mind shift? Like when someone finally gets that mind shift, what role do those things play for them?
so you built an unrealistic expectation. Thanks for that question, by the way. You
Hmm.
built an unrealistic expectation in your mind. Clear it away. That's the first thing. You gotta clear it off. There is something about who you think you are that you really are not. I have somebody that always says something about, we set this lofty, um, we paint this lofty picture of who we are. And then at the end of the day, we'll see that there's nobody who's compatible with that picture. So begin to create a picture of yourself that has a compatible male figure out there for you. Okay. Hone your flaws yourself. Understand that you're not perfect. You were made actually from, we always say that marriage is a union between two imperfect people, right? So if that union was between two imperfect people, definitely there's some you must have taken some of that trait. So there's something about you that's not perfect that needs work every day. When we wake up after you're married, you're still going to have something that needs work every day up until we're done on earth. Okay, so don't expect you to come in contact with somebody who's perfect. You keep that list, go through that list. What is unrealistic about this list? There's some things are fundamental and basic that should be on your list, keep them there. But the things that yourself, and the truth is, when we are deceiving ourselves, when we're setting unrealistic goals, do you know that I mean, I know for myself when I sit down to start to write something down that's not realistic, I know. Okay. So if I say that I want to keep writing it down for the purpose so that, when I aim at whatever they say at the stars, worst case, you will land somewhere close
Hmm.
to that place, right? You can keep it down for that purpose, but don't keep it down for the purpose of it's got to be this person. It's got to be this. It's got to be.
Yeah, yeah.
That was part one of our episode with Dayo Okunlola on the mind shift. Check out the second half up next.